Here's a fun little card trick. Actually, pretty amazing card trick. This is not the kind of card trick, though, that I'm going to have you select a card and have to somehow figure out what it is and where it is. This is a trick more about how many cards. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to take out the Joker. And I'm going to show you something that I think is interesting. And that is the concept of cutting cards. Meaning, when we cut off a packet of cards, it can be any number of cards. Pick up a small packet, a halfway packet, three-quarter packet, different numbers of cards. We know that there's 52 cards in the deck. So if you were to cut the cards, say in half like this, roughly, you would be able to kind of estimate how many cards are in a packet just by kind of looking at it. Since we know there's 52, and if I got exactly half, that'd be 26, but it's probably about 26 unless you get really good at that, and some magicians can do that. But I'm going to show you something that I think is more amazing. If we were to take, another thing you do is if we were to just take the cards and look at it this way, you can tell, it's an easier way to tell, kind of, or estimate how many cards are in a particular packet. But we're going to do something amazing. This is interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to just set the deck like this. I'm going to have my spectator put the Joker in wherever they want. It doesn't have to be halfway. It can be as close to halfway as you want. Doesn't matter. Or a little less, a little more. Just put it at some, they'll put it at some random level in the deck, okay? So don't have a spectator, so I'm going to let them do it. But they really can put this card wherever they want. And that's what we're going to work with, okay? So they put the Joker right there. Now, to make this harder for me, I'm not going to be able to compare. I'm going to have to guess how many cards are in this packet. I'm not going to be able to compare. So you want them to put their hand over that part, and then have somebody even hold on to this one too, like this. Put your hand over that so that I can't compare the size of the packets, or even look at that one. And we're going to try and figure out how many cards are in that packet. But I have to do it through some kind of magical prowess, I guess. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and guess. I'm going to say, let's say, I'm going to say there's about 21 cards right there. 21. Not about. I think there's exactly 21 cards. Okay? Now let's say if I'll commit to 21, but let's just kind of look at it now. See how close I am. Maybe it's just a little smaller than this one. So we know it's less than 26, but I'm saying 21 exactly. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 cards. Exactly. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21. How would I know? It's exactly 21 without even looking at them. It's pretty amazing as it is to know how many cards were in the packet. But what if I told the spectator who has their hand on this packet, by the way, the whole time, the one under the Joker, what if I also told you that underneath that Joker, I can feel like there is an ace? In fact, I feel like it's an ace of diamonds. In fact, I feel like under that ace of diamonds, there's a 4 of clubs. I think there's an ace of diamonds and a 4 of clubs. In fact, I'm getting an impression pretty much for the whole deck, but we'll just stop there. Ace of diamonds and 4 of clubs is, I think, where you stuck this Joker. Look at that. Ace of diamonds and a 4 of clubs. That's even more amazing. All right, so if you're paying close attention, or if you looked at the thumbnail for this video carefully enough, you can see what I'm doing here is something with a stacked deck called the Si Stebbins. So this video is part of the Si Stebbins series. So the little thumbnail subheading there would have given it away. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Si Stebbins, like any layman shouldn't be familiar with, you can really amaze somebody with this little feat. Now, the card counting thing, it's a little bit of math. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's hard, but it takes practice. It's actually pretty sensible. Let me show you how it works. Okay, because the deck is in Si Stebbins order, this works, the math works because of that. And it also allows me to know which cards they cut to, which is just kind of a little bonus effect kicker. All right, so we got the cards in Si Stebbins order. I'm not going to go through that if you don't know what Si Stebbins order is. I got tons of videos about it. I have one just specifically about how to set up a Si Stebbins stack. But know this: what we're going to do is some Si Stebbins math. And what I want is I want the deck to be in a particular cycle. In other words, when they put the Joker in the middle of the packet of the deck, I need a king on the bottom of the deck. So that's why I was sitting here cutting and cutting while I was talking, and I was only cutting and not shuffling. I was kind of doing this false cut, so it looks like I'm shuffling. And you could do a false shuffle if you wanted to, but you don't need to spend all that time because it's really not about picking a card. You talk about it's about numbers. It's about how many cards. And so you can just be doing this while you're going. Then what happens is, if I haven't cut to a king, and believe it or not, sometimes I do, because there's 4 possibilities in there. You can just do this. Sometimes you can land on a king. But if I don't, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the deck and I'm going to set it up for the trick by going. Sometimes I can just peel off some cards, and what I'll do is I'll cut to one of the kings that's about in the middle right there, and I'll go. Sometimes you can tell how many cards are in a packet if you do this. Well, that's actually not really true. It's harder to tell, but I'm making a point to go, yeah, here's another way to look at it. What I'm really doing is I'm cutting to this king and putting it on the bottom so that I can do the trick. Okay, and I'll tell you, I'll go through the math here in a minute, but you can do it with another card on the bottom. You could do it with a queen on the bottom. You could do it with a jack on the bottom. But the lower you go, the harder it is, and then the more mistakes you could make. So I just like to shoot for the king, and here's why. Because the king represents the number 13. That's the highest number in this order, right? Ace through king is 1 through 13. So by having a 13 on the bottom of the deck, it allows our math to work. And here's how the math works. There's a little formula. I'll put it on the screen, probably put it in the description too, because it's slightly complicated. Here's how it works. When they put their cards somewhere in the middle of the deck, and they can go anywhere, it doesn't even have to be the middle, like I said, be anywhere. What happens is all I need to know how many cards are in this packet on top is I need to know the bottom card right there, and I've got a 6, okay? Suits don't matter in any of this. It's all numbers. So let's say that happens. So if they go like this, a couple things happen. When I pick up this half and say, there's no one to work with, I do a quick glimpse. It doesn't matter because I don't know what I'm doing. I got my 6. And say, I want you to hold this packet here so that I can't, compare the two in size. But I do know that I have a 6, and I'm going to do some math with that 6. I'm also going to hand this off. But in doing so, I'm doing 2 things. I'm knowing the 6, and I'm also getting an estimate. I'm not going to get a number estimate. I just know I'm somewhere around half just by the feel of it. I just need to know it's either around half, or if it's less than half or more than half. You'll see what I mean here in a second. It'll make the math easier. So all they've done is very quickly, they've cut the cards. I've very quickly done this. And so you're going to hold on to both packets. Now, again, all I need to know is that's a 6. And roughly half the deck's there. But here's the math. We got a king on the bottom, which is a 13. If I take the king or the 13 and I subtract 6, right, I'm going to end up with 7. This is where the math is going to come in. I want to multiply times 4. This is the suit cycle. So I'm going 13, in my head, I'm going 13 minus 6 gives me 7. 7 times 4 is 28. That's actually how many cards are going to be over here, right? Let's take a look at it. If you look at it this way, you can see, yeah, it's about half. And 28 is about half. So 13 minus 6, 7. I always multiply times 4. I'll end up with 28. I can immediately know there's 28 cards in this half the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, and 28 cards. That was pretty easy. It doesn't always end up that easy. I'll show you why and how to get out of it, but it's still amazing. Okay, so you can stop right there if you want. You guessed 28 cards. That's pretty amazing. But remember, we're working with a Si Stebbins deck, so why not take advantage of it? Since I know about the 6 of hearts, that means I know the next card in the deck. In other words, the one under the Joker. And you don't have to do 1 or 2 cards. You can do 4 or 5 cards if you want to. Just whatever you think, or even 1 card is probably amazing enough. So not only did I know how many cards you cut to, I even know where you cut to in the deck. And so I'm going to know what that is because the Si Stebbins is going to tell me that that is a 9 of spades, right? Because it comes after the 6 of hearts. There's a 9 of spades. So that can be your little kicker. It's one thing for me to know how many, but then I knew where you cut the deck exactly. Okay. You can play with that however you want. But let's talk about the math again. So that example worked out great. A 6 is a good one because we're subtracting from 13. And when they take about half, when they cut it about halfway through, it's going to be, you know, it's going to make sense for it to be in the 26 range, right? So let's do it again. We got 13. So this time we cut the deck. Oh, I got to get you a different card. Let's cut it slightly less than half. Let's go like this. Let's say they stopped us here and end up on a jack, right? Okay. So they put their joker here. They cut to a jack, which I think happened in the demo, didn't it? Is that how it worked? And we put that over there. So what did I do? I went with 13 minus 11 is 2. 2 times, right? Yeah, 13 minus 11 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Well, there's a problem. I know that's not 8 cards. There's no way that's 8 cards. That's why I have to get a little bit of a feel for it, right? So what's wrong? I can't just go 13 minus 11 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. I know it's not 8 cards. What I have to do is I have to work in clumps of 13. Means if 8 is unreasonable, all I have to do is add 13 to that number. 8 plus 13 is 21. Now that sounds more reasonable for that size of a packet. Just from picking it up and setting it over there, I know it's not 8 cards. But 21, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 every time. Okay? The bottom, the 13 minus the cut card times 4. And then, if it's not reasonable, either add 13. Sometimes you may even need to subtract 13 because you've got a bunch of, or rather you got too few cards, right? So let's try it again. Let's try it with a different depth. What if they, let's just do it with fewer cards. What if they cut the deck right about here? We'll just see what, I don't know what it's going to work out to be, but let's go right here. So we got what, we should do it this way. The joker right there. I'm looking at this. Again, I got a 6, so this will be interesting, right? So I know that 13 minus 6 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. There's no way that's 28 cards because half the deck is 26. There's not 28 cards. I can tell by just picking it up that I got less than half. So I can't work with 28. It's got to be less than 28. Well, the next number down it can be is a multiple of 13. So I have to go 28 minus 13, which is, what is it? 28 minus 13 is 15, isn't it? Yeah, okay. 15. Now 15 makes more sense. I'm looking at a packet that's way less than half, and in my head, my options are 28 and 15. It's going to obviously be 15, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 every time. It's beautiful. Okay, one more time. Because I know it's a little bit, the math's a little bit complicated. That's why it takes a little bit of practice, but it eventually really makes sense. If you can do some simple adding and subtracting in your head, it's really quite incredible. Okay, so what if they grab a ton of cards? Let's see what happens if we go like way more than half. They put the joker right there. Okay, now I'm just peeked at my 9. I'll better show you. That's the one I'm working with, okay? Now I know I got way more than half just by setting this over there way past 26. But I have to do the math. 13 minus 9, that gives me 4. And remember, I was going to multiply by 4. That gets me to 16. I know that's not 16 cards. 16 plus 13 is 29. Guess what? That's not 29 cards. Because 26 is half, right? So that's got to be more than 29 cards. That means I got to keep adding 13. So 29 plus 13, help me, 42, right? That means it's going to be 42. So what I could do is I could say 42 and count those out. I also know that puts 10 over here if you want to do it that way. But let's just, for the sake of this, lesson. See if I got the math right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Every time. If you do the math right, I get it right every time. And the 9 is all I needed to know. And of course, the 9 tells me what's next. We know that's a Queen of Clubs. You cut to the Queen of Clubs. By the way, we know there's 10 cards in there. That wouldn't be as amazing because they can do that math. But if you want to, you could do it that way. Okay, Queen of Clubs came after the 9 of Diamonds. That's how it works. So I'll put the formula on the screen, or I would have put the formula on the screen by now, I guess. And I'll put it in the description. If you could just remember, work the king to the bottom so you can always work a 13. See, if there was a queen on the bottom, you could still do this trick, but you'd go from 12 minus whatever it is, and that would work if you want to do that. The problem is, if they pick a king, your math gets a little wonky because you get into negative numbers. So that's why I always wanted to land on the 13. But mess with it, and you'll see how it works. I did it just like, what if they cut off one card? Does it still work? And yeah, it does. What if they cut off 2 cards? The math still works. If you use that 13 multiple principle, it just works every time. That's just the magic of Si Stebbins. So, good Si Stebbins trick. Very different, mysterious, and magical. I hope you have fun with that one.